And this hangout is live and on the air, and we are in Chicago as the first real signs of autumn have arrived. Windy, breezy, cold, and overcast. How are you, Barrett?
I'm doing good, and yeah, that wind is something else. I heard last night that they were even potentially canceling some metro train lines because it was so windy, which I never heard that one before. So yeah, we're going through some big gusts, living up to our name, Windy City.
Absolutely. I think they were more concerned about trees going down on the tracks than, train cars flipping over, but who knows?
That makes sense. I hadn't figured out exactly what the concern was, but yeah, you don't want to run into a tree. That sounds pretty awful.
Yeah, and we did have a lot of that kind of activity in the area and in parts of Iowa and other, you know, areas south of us here. They did have a lot of damage that was almost tornado-like winds. So
Wow.
it is interesting what the illusion is creating for us to have to occupy ourselves with.
Yeah. Well, and I'm noticing as I'm looking at my screen too that there's kind of an illusion with my dark shirt that my head is floating in space, a little bit like one of those green screens. So maybe that'll be enjoyable for some of the people watching this video too.
Yeah, we can just put that in that residual Halloween category, and the talking head will enlighten us today. That's kind of cool.
Living up to that term.
Well, we are continuing with the manual for teachers, and we're looking today at how is judgment relinquished. So that's really, I think, probably the fundamental core essence of the Course in Miracles is that we have a brain, and we can use that brain to pass judgment. And ever since we figured that out, we have gotten way too enthusiastic about pursuing that, perhaps.
It's true. But actually, as a matter of fact, I think we did How is Judgment Relinquished already. So we are on How is Peace Possible in This World?
Oh, you're right. That's correct.
And it's an interesting question too. I think they fit together really well because the question is how do we, live in this world in a place of peace? I think both of those questions are really leading us to the same point, which is, it's not something inherent in the world that brings us the peace or the happiness. It's something inherent in who we really are and what we really are, that we bring this peace out through us into the world. And because of the way that we're looking at the world and we're perceiving the world, then all of a sudden we're able to step into a place of joy, a place of abundance, and a place of pure love. So it's not in the world, but we can experience here in the world.
Yeah, and I think also, um, I think that we tend to imagine ourselves in a timeline, and we're always out of the present moment. But I think in the present moment, when we experience that separation from the drama, from the video that is playing out in our surroundings here, I think that is the avenue to arrive at a point where there is the recognition that regardless of what the past has held or what the future might hold, in this exact perfect second, in that separated state from time and the space-time continuum, absolute peace does reign supreme. So it really is talking about an altered state of reality, which is in fact our true state of being. When we slip into that mode, all of the wars have been fought and are finished. All of the reconciliation has been done. And we enter into that moment where the entire universe is whole and fresh and pure. and is as God created it once again.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that, and I think this idea of stepping out of the linear perspective of time is really key, because when we're in this linear idea, then it feels like we need to get somewhere in order to be happy. We need, we're going to achieve enlightenment. Even that a very idea is like, oh well, I'll get enlightenment eventually. It's not present, but it is possible. And maybe that is our experience in the linear world here, but the truth is that our truth is here, our love is here. And as we come to experience that, we step out of like the horizontal line of time and we step into the vertical. So the holy instant really, like you said, just is like we're watching the whole timeline from above. And because we're above it, we're above the battleground, then we're not really wrapped up in it as much. And maybe we still have actions we need to take in regards to what's happening in the journey, what's happening in the day-to-day life. But we can do that from that sense of remove, that sense of separation from what we're going through. And even if it seems like a very subtle step back, that step can give us all the difference between feeling like we're the victim of what's happening and feeling more like we're the observer, even if we're still participating in the drama that's unfolding. Just like an actor on stage, we can participate in what seems like a very intense drama, but we're not, actually upset by what's happening. And that's the same idea here.
Right. And it also is very much contingent on uh, what voice you are listening to. Because if you're listening to the Holy Spirit or the voice of the Christ, you have entered into that union of consciousness where there really isn't a lot of words, there is no dialogue going on. But if you are listening to the ego is always very excited at the possibility of judgment and looking for things to condemn and looking for, war, struggle, strife, and trying to uh, convince you that this is the eternal condition, that this is all there is, that ongoing attack overlaid by, running away and hiding and then sneaking out and attacking again. So it really is very much in your control as to which voice you listen to. You might think that you have compassion by allying yourself with a cause or an organization or a vision of creating peace. And yet peace has never been achieved by attacking, the other side.
Mm.
We have 10,000 years of history that is recorded, and never once has there been the achievement of an actual state of peace in the world. And that's very telling and very revealing, because we cannot manufacture peace from a worldly or an ego-based perception. We have to allow the whole illusion to be dissolved, to be dropped in order for peace to be attained.
Yeah, I know somewhere in the text, Jesus says, do not mistake truce for peace. And I think it just is exactly what you're saying, is just because in this moment people maybe are laying their weapons down. If that thought of conflict is still in the mind, it will play itself out again. And as long as there is dis-ease, there's disharmony within, there's going to be disharmony without. Because what is in the mind has to play itself out some way. So the only way for us to really find peace is to find peace within. So if we keep watching and we keep witnessing our internal conflict, and we simply don't react to it, we simply don't feed it, it kind of reminds me of that nice the metaphor about the the grandson asking his grandfather, about the two wolves. There's two wolves within, and one wolf is madness, is fear, is jealousy. The other wolf is peace, is love, is harmony. And it seems like they're a conflict. And the question then becomes which wolf wins? And the grandfather tells the son, whichever one that you feed. And that's really our question: is which of these thought systems are we feeding within us? Are we reinforcing the thought system of jealousy and judgment, or are we identifying with the thought system of peace and happiness? And it's not that we should never feel upset or angry or fearful. It's just that when we do have those emotions, when we do have those things come up for us, that we can kind of watch them dispassionately. We can hold a space of loving kindness for them. And rather than increasing the judgment by judging ourselves for judging, we actually just sort of undo the whole thing. And I sometimes think of it as like there's a flywheel, and we have a flywheel of kind of shame that's kind of been spinning. And as we step into non-judgment, we're not putting any more energy into the flywheel. So the flywheel is going to keep spinning for a while. It's going to keep that momentum going, but it's going to slow down if we don't, start spinning it again. And I think that's kind of the process that we're going through here is to eventually let that unconscious energy of judgment and fear start to lose the power that it has by not continuing it.
Exactly. And, in the passage that this particular part of the workbook, the Manual for Teachers, it says, peace is impossible to those who look on war. So if you're acknowledging the disharmony, you're definitely reinforcing it, and you're blocking yourself from accessing peace and resolution. Then it says, peace is inevitable to those who offer peace. How easily, then, is your judgment of the world escaped? See, so the world has not trapped you. You have trapped yourself in this illusion of all these horrors that try to make themselves appear to be real. And it also says, it is the world you see that is impossible. So when you're seeing all the conflict and all the blood and all the gore, you're seeing an illusion. And the Course is very clear in saying, reject the illusion.
Yeah. And it presents itself to us again and again in so many different ways. It doesn't always have to be as overt as, that gory stuff we saw at Halloween. It might be a friend who didn't, say the nice words to us, or it might be, just kind of stubbing our toe on the kitchen table. It could be any number of things that seem to be the cause of our upset. And one of the ideas that is just so crucial is that there is no hierarchy of illusions. So any loss of peace is a loss of peace. Whether it looks like a world war, or whether it looks like a minor scratch, a little bit of pain associated with it. The reason those things are ultimately the same from the perspective of peace is that if we are not knowing our truth, then we are not knowing our truth. A dream is a dream is a dream, no matter whether the dream seems big or small. And what we come to see is that whenever we are stepping into some sort of loss of peace, that the process then is the same. We step into the forgiveness process, which says, don't look outside for my peace is within. So that problem seems to be outside of me, but it's actually within my mind. And because it's in my mind, I can change it. And I don't need to worry about actually doing the change myself. I can ask for the Holy Spirit's help to make that change, to allow me to let go of this old fear. And by stepping through that process, every time we find ourselves challenged, every time we find ourselves hesitant to hold love's hand, we eventually find that love is with us more and more and more. and it stays with us even as we go through sometimes more challenging circumstances. We find that we're not quite as knocked off our high horse. We're not as drawn into the kind of morass of the ego, or for at least not as long. And every time we have a shift back into peace, we're reinforcing that that is a choice that we can make, and that we can step out of this impossible world and back into the joyful world of peace that this section is also talking about. I think the continuation of this is great. He says, "Yet has God's judgment on this distorted world redeemed it and made it fit to welcome peace. And peace descends on it in joyous answer. Peace now belongs here because a thought of God has entered." And he just continues on. It's just such a beautiful message that no matter what is happening around us, the answer is always our perspective. How are we going to look at what's happening to us? And by choosing that perspective of peace, we bring peace to this world.
That's very true. And, one of the things I've noticed is that um, I have always tended to magnetize people around me. And they would always make mention of the fact that, when I'm in your surroundings, I feel at peace. I feel at harmony. I'm no longer afraid. And I think that that is one of the greatest rewards of our efforts, is to see that there are those around us who are struggling in this world. And we don't have to convince them. We don't have to say anything. We don't have to do anything. We just apply that principle of knowing that the peace is within us and that we are at a place where there is no fear, there is no judgment. And you'll find that it has a ripple effect on everybody that comes along and participates in your life. So think about that. Are you a center for chaos and miscommunication? And do people get agitated when they're around you, or do they come back to their center naturally? Are you a person who lives in that awareness that your divinity is unapproachable? Your divinity cannot be attacked or destroyed or distorted, because that will reflect back to you from the people in your surroundings. And that's one of the more, I think, immediate effects of utilizing this philosophy. And if more of us lived in this philosophy, I think we would be the peacemakers in the world, not by doing anything, but by simply being what we know is to be the truth.
Yeah, I like that vision. I like that vision. Yeah, I think it just kind of fits right in to the last few sentences here. So maybe I'll just read those. Peace now belongs here because the thought of God has entered. What else but a thought of God turns hell to heaven merely by being what it is? The earth bows down before its gracious presence, and it leans down in answer to raise it up again. Now is the question different. It is no longer, can peace be possible in this world? But instead, is it not impossible that peace be absent here?
Yes, that's beautiful. And what's even more beautiful is to recognize that you are the presence of peace in this world.
Yeah, and we can all bring that light with us out into the world. So I think that might be a good place for us to kind of wind down for today. I did want to mention that Chris and I are doing an in-person event. So for those of you in the Illinois, Wisconsin, maybe even Indiana area, it'd be great to have you join us. It's going to be on, we're finalizing the details, but looks like it'll probably be Sunday, November 29th. So we'll be letting everybody know about that more as we get the details all hammered out.
Absolutely. It's going to be kind of fun because, that will be right after the big celebration of Thanksgiving, and it will give us a real theme to share with, and who knows, we may even have pumpkin pie for the people who show up.
Ooh, I love pumpkin pie.
There we go. So you can get your dose of the course and dessert.
We'll all have our just desserts, right?
That is true.
All right. Well, it's been really good connecting with you here today, Chris, and hopefully you get a little bit of chicken soup and kind of clear up a little bit of cold that you've had. And look forward to talking with you next week.
Absolutely. You have a great week, Barrett. And for all of our listeners, please share our videos with those around you who you think might be interested. And we'll be connecting in one more week.
All right. Look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.